Hi and welcome you everybody to our webinar Circular and Linear Economy, the Textile Industry.
My name is Helena Ziva.
And my name is Lorenz Werner, and we want to give you an introduction into the textile industry. First of all, I want to talk you through our agenda. We will start with our diploma thesis presentation. Afterwards, Engineer Beckhausen will give us some insights about the circular economy in the textile industry. Dr. Manian from the Research Institute for Textile Chemistry and Textile Physics will tell us about the research in the textile industry, and Jutta M. Schörkhuber from the Lansing AG will tell us about their latest technology, Tensile X3 fiber. Afterwards, we will finish the webinar with a discussion.
We are students of HLUW Ispatal in our graduation year. Our education is focused on environment and economics and is based in Austria.
Why do we still need to talk about the fashion industry?
The fashion sector accounts for 8 to 10% of global CO2 emissions, which is more than all international flights and marine shipping combined, making a major contribution to the climate problem. Every second, the equivalent of one trash truck full of clothing is burned or thrown in a landfill. 8 years after Rana Plaza, millions of workers in Bangladesh and around the world still face poverty, danger, and even death while making the clothes we buy. In other words, business as usual continues. A Bangladeshi worker would need to be paid 4.5 times more than the current minimum wage to afford a decent living standard and almost 9 times more to support a family.
So what is our thesis about? The full name of our thesis is Comparing Linear and Circular Economy, the Textile Industry. Why did we choose this topic? The current grievances are our motivation to check the products, systems, and alternatives, and the goal is to inform people about how the textile industry treats resources and check the positive impact of alternatives. The methods of our thesis were research. We have done quite a lot of research, and interviews. We have done interviews with people who work in the textile industry, and we've visited an international trade fair in Munich and read a lot of literature. What is linear economy? Linear economy is based on the take, make, use, and dispose model. Extracted raw materials, finite resources are used to make a lot of products which are sold for a very cheap price. And after a short amount of time, usage time, they are all disposed again. Value is created in this system by producing and selling as many products as possible.
Product of linear economy is a fast fashion. Fast fashion is cheap, low-quality materials like polyester causing clothes to degrade after just a few wears and get thrown away. Fast fashion describes low prices but stylish that moves quickly from design to retail stores to meet trends, with new collection being introduced continuously. For example, Zara and H&M are two fast fashion giants. The time for change has come. We cannot afford fast fashion.
So what is the solution? Could circular economy be the solution? First of all, what is circular economy? Circular economy is inspired by nature and works in a closed-loop system. The closed-loop systems tries to keep the extracted raw materials circulating through reusing, recycling, and upcycling. They try to use them again, and again, and in this way they could save existing resources because they need fewer resources.
What is slow fashion? Slow fashion is an opposite of fast fashion. Slow fashion want to reduce the carbon footprint, child labor, and other unethical industry practice. Fast fashion is about awareness and approach to fashion. Moreover, sustainable fashion advocates for fair treatment, fair wages, good working conditions, and fair trade. Use of sustainable and natural fabric. The keynote of fast fashion is to overthink the consumerism.
As we said before, we have done interviews with people who are working in the textile industry. We interviewed an Austrian startup fashion brand. They're calling it now the brand, but that's just for marketing. The real name will come out later. We've interviewed Elisa Smajilovic and Phil, her business partner, and their goal is to have a very high quality and achieve a lower impact on the environment through the longevity of the products. Important for this case is to have a really timeless design and quality and the high quality so that the products achieve this longevity. Sustainable should not be a privilege. Their biggest challenge right now is to find the right fabrics which have the right quality but are not too expensive. The results of our second interview was with Martin Pfeiffer from Aquafil. He's the key account manager for Aquafil for Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Denmark. So, what is Aquafil? Aquafil is a producer of nylon yarn, mostly for interior textiles, but also for fashion and engineering plastics. They make about 500 million euros in yearly sales, and now they're using about 37% recycled polyamide 6. They have found a recycling process to recycle polyamide 6 chemical. It has the same quality as new and can be repeated endlessly. Uh, per kilogram, they save about 80% on carbon dioxide. So we spoke about problems of the implementation from the circular economy. The problems are that for their chemical recycling process, clothing has to contain about 95 to 96% polyamide 6 with a lower percentage contained. They can't recycle it out of the clothing. So the end products are not recycling friendly for them, and they are trying to cooperate with fashion brands and to develop some recycling friendly clothing. So we also spoke about not only their recycling process, also what others would need. There will definitely be technical innovation, and what does the future need to? We spoke about the political side. Politics and the have to react and support the implementation of the circular economy because if everybody is doing it on his own, it is way too expensive and companies can't do things where they lose money. So there have to be international recycling centers where a big amount of materials get recycled.
Now we will talk about minimum wage or living wage. Minimum wage is the lowest legal wage a company can pay its workers. Like wages in the garment industry are very low. Most workers are not able to meet their basic needs. The people who make our clothes usually earn less than third of what they need to meet their basic needs and care for their family. And a living wage is a minimum a garment worker should earn to feed themselves and their families and to pay rent, healthcare, transportation, and education. You can see that in Bangladesh, situation is really bad because they not even earn one third of the living wage they should earn. If government workers were paid a living wage, how much more would you pay for the same t-shirt? On the graphic from fashion industry, we can see that only if we would pay €1 and 47 cents more, the government workers would earn the living wage and they would have enough food and enough money for their basic needs. What are the most sustainable fabrics? Cotton is the most common and most used fabrics, but growing cotton can be problematic. Conventional cotton is one of shortest and most chemical intensive crops to grow. It requires a lot of pesticides and as a result has a negative impact on the planet and the people who grow it. Organic cotton are more sustainable alternative to conventional cotton has been booming in the last few years. It aims to minimize the environmental impact of cotton production by trying to remove harmful pesticides and other chemicals from the production process. If you are looking for most sustainable cotton, go recycled. Recycled or upcycled cotton is made using post-industrial and post-consumer cotton waste. According to the High Material Sustainability Index, recycled cotton is more sustainable alternative to both conventional and organic cotton. What about polyester? It's the same like with cotton. If you want buy a sustainability fabric, you have to buy recycled polyester. What is problem with polyester? When you wash your clothes, polyester um, produce a lot of microplastic and then it goes into the seas and into the world ocean. The most innovative fabrics we have now is tencel. Tencel is 50% more absorbent than cotton and requires less energy and water to produce. And the second one is econyl because uses less water and creates less waste than traditional nylon production methods.
So, how to avoid the trap greenwashing? There are many words like sustainable, green, or fair, which are used way too much by marketing campaigns without being explained. The meaning of these words can be spread very widely by companies, and you always have to ask yourself, why is this called sustainable? Why is it called green? And secondly, you should not trust the self-certificates. Self-certificates are made by the companies themselves. They set their own standards and measurements. So external certificates are way safer.
Also, brands without a diversity of products in their ethical range may not be serious. Organic cotton t shirts are easy enough to do, but what about fair trade? What about ethical working condition? What about um, a living wage and labor rights? Just because it's organic cotton doesn't make it green. Look out for things like GOTS certification to know it's a truly sustainable product or not.
Transparency. So a lot, some of the companies maybe will say that external certificates are complicated to get, are expensive, but transparency is basically for free. So they don't have to act saintly, but they should not lie to their customers. So this is the list of our references. And now we want to talk with our experts.
So, circular economy, we are talking about the implementation of circular economy in industry and trade. So the resources, as we all know, of our planet are eaten up soon. So this is just a symbolic photo. And unfortunately, the environmental damage due to irresponsible raw material extraction is dramatic. So you see here some photos from China. These or made in Baotou in China. And we're talking here about huge, highly toxic and radioactive slag lakes. This is especially for producing screens for computers and so on, but for many other things. So we all know the global goals from the UN, the so-called SDGs, and we are now talking about number 12, the responsible consumption, where also circular economy is integrated. So circular economy for the European Commission is becoming very important. Of course, there must be a development from a linear economy to a circular economy. And as you can see here, circular economy is going into many different subjects in jobs and growth and investments and regulations in energy and so on. So everything is gathered also in circular economy. And fortunately, I have to say, Ursula von der Leyen, she called the European Green Deal of the European Commission, and she said, which you can read below on this page, circular economy erected as #1 priority of European Green Deal. This, she said, in December 2019. She was very enthusiastic about it. Unfortunately, the pandemic came, and then the goals couldn't be followed so intensively as she probably wanted. So most important is long term, there will be legislations in Europe which will require from the enterprises that they prove that their products have to be taken back, kept in loops, and which must not contain environmentally degrading substances. So companies which fulfill these future regulations earlier will have a major advantage compared to the competition. That's a fact. And this is something we all know. Waste equals raw material for future products. So what are the targets for circular economy, not only for textiles, but in general? So there should not be any toxic chemicals in the products. There should be eco-design. I will talk about this later on. Future-orientated synthetic material, for example, biodegradable synthetic products. No composite material, which is not recyclable, as we all know. Then circular economy concepts must be profitable, otherwise the companies wouldn't do it. And reduction of the risk of product liability through transparency. You were talking about transparency before via certificates, unified eco-labeling. You will see that later on, and innovative transformation of the economy and industry through long-term thinking. So here is a symbolic photo of transparency along the supply chain. This is really important because it doesn't make sense if you only see the top of the iceberg. You must see the whole iceberg, otherwise it would crash like Titanic. So there must be product responsibility of companies in the future, and eco-design is important, and commitment to take back the products, and also leasing alternatives for products could be possible. For example, if somebody wants to buy a window, he doesn't pay for the window, but he pays probably a monthly fee to look through. He doesn't need the window. So here we talk about eco-design. It must be intelligent for the product development with reusable individual components. So the people should think at the beginning, what should happen with my product at the end of the life of the product. And of course, it is very important to check everything what is imported from, for example, from Asia and other countries. So very often people don't know what is in the products chemically. So this must be definitely checked, analyzed and so on, whether it's really true what they say would be in the product. So the question is, how can products be certified? Because this is essential to get a proof whether a fabric is environmentally friendly or recyclable or whatever. So today we are in a time of cradle to grave. So what we do is we take it, we make something, we use it, and then we dispose it. And this is not the way we should handle everything in the future. So the future concept is cradle to cradle, and there are two possibilities of cycles. One is the biological cycle, and two is the technical cycle. And here is one example. There's one company who started with all this many years ago. It's called EPEA, is the Environmental Protection Encouragement Agency for C2C. So they're based in Hamburg and in Switzerland. And what they do is material evaluation, search for material alternatives, focus on industrial material flows, network management, supply chain management, and knowledge trustees. At the end, there should be so-called C2C certifications. So the science is sitting in Hamburg, the project implementation in Switzerland, and the certification itself is in San Francisco. So cradle to cradle is probably the most severe certification which is in the market, because you will see what is done. At the end of the day, there is a certificate. So EPEA Switzerland is also ISO 9001 certified. And there is a categorization of materials from A, B, C, X, gray, and bent. And then they give also what you can see in the left corner, different certificates: platinum, gold, silver, bronze, and basic. And what do they monitor? They monitor the material reutilization, material health, renewable energy, which is also important and which is also checked, then the water stewardship and the social fairness. And the company who is checked in these directions get then the certificate based on what they can do. And here is an example of such a certificate. And there are many examples of companies who are already cradle to cradle certified, like in Austria, Wolford, or Puma or Frosch or others. And I will give you some examples from of the textile industry. So Wolford is probably the most known company who uses this cradle to cradle system. There's an example that probably, I think 60% of their products are already cradle to cradle certified. Or Frosch, which are cleaning products, or biological degradable drinking bottles, or Bauwerk, which is a flooring company, wooden floors. Or this is the biggest wholesaler for textiles in the world. They are based in Bielefeld in Germany. And they have these certifications for upholstery fabrics. Or another example is Giroflex for office chairs, or Puma or Desso, they produce carpets. Or Trigema from Germany, they do polo shirts, also certified. Or Hochtief, which is a building management company. I did this with my own company and was a pioneer for this. And then basically, the Netherlands plays a leading role in circular economy. There's one example in Venlo. So their vision is a city without waste. And there are also many other cradle-to-cradle projects. EU city projects in 10 regions from Limburg, Graz, and so on. But, and this is what you mentioned before, it is absolutely necessary that there is a framework, there are framework conditions created by EU and in the case of Austria, Austrian politics. So the politicians must really create these conditions, like tax reductions or state subsidies or whatever, because all the companies, regardless whether it's textiles or others, they need to know what is going on, what will happen in the future. Can I get financial support or not? So if these political conditions are not clear, it is very difficult to start this whole movement, and it is a movement. So fortunately, we have in Austria in the government agreement, which is from 2020 to 2024, it says that the circular economy has to be supported and pushed. I think that our minister now, Mrs. Gewessler, is doing a very good job, because she prepares a new strategy for a circular economy at the moment, which will be presented next year in March. There will be a huge summit where this will be all introduced. So there is a lot going on behind the scene, and there are also many companies already doing circular economy. And there must be much more. Fortunately, there is also the so-called FFG, which is a state organization to support companies for innovative products. But most important is for the companies to the reduction of a jungle of subsidies, because there are so many things and people are, simply speaking, confused. So there must be created a transparency for enterprises. So the targets must be reachable also for enterprises. So there should not be over-regulations and no additional financial burdens for companies. This is also important. And there must be, and this is very important, a legal security, clear laws, and the unification of all environmental laws in Austria, not only in Austria, but also in Europe. So currently we are talking about approximately 400 different eco labels on the market. So you can see some of them here. This is totally confusing. And as a consumer, you have no idea what is good, what is bad. Many of them do greenwashing. So what you said to avoid the trap of greenwashing is absolutely true. So you must only believe and trust certification institutes which are official, and they should really be serious, and there are unfortunately many of them which are not so serious. So if you see this chart here, I mean, you're already confused by watching it. So it must be a reduction of eco labels which provably follow stringent tests. For example, Europe, they started with a so-called EU eco label. This is one step, but there are still many others. But I think cradle to cradle is one, or the global recycled standard, which is the so-called GRS for polyester, or Umweltzeichen from Austria, or confidence in textiles, which has been invented in Austria. Ökotex Standard 100 is the Austrian expression for it, or fair trade, or the Grüne Punkt, and so on. So these are some of the major ones. And this all can be done only by using a push and pull strategy along the supply chain. Otherwise, it is very difficult. So what I'm trying is to build bridges and cooperations in many different directions. So the implementation of circular economy is a new movement, or should be a new movement, and everyone must pull on the same string in the same direction with passion, and this is so important. And why do we do that? We do that for the next and future generations, of course. So we have this responsibility because we can change things now. We have to change things now. And we simply have to do it, although it is very difficult. But I think most importantly is that the CEOs and presidents of companies are convinced and motivated, and then they have to give the orders to their people in the companies to really change things, because this change will be necessary and essential for the whole world. That's it.
So thank you very much for your interesting presentation. Quite some things which I did not knew about. And yeah, thank you very much. I think questions come in the discussion round. So we've also talked about technologies and that there are more innovations required to make it easier to recycle things. And today we have here Dr. Manian from the Research Institute of Textiles Chemistry and Textile Physics. Welcome here in our webinar and good afternoon. Please, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I have some questions to ask, but I think these will be at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. How do I do this? So we are from the Research Institute of Textile Chemistry and Textile Physics. So my name is Avinash Manian. I've been here since 2003, but my German is not as good as it should be, although I've been here 18 years. So I was happy to read that. Do this in English. I didn't have to speak in my bad German and spoil the mood. So we are located in Vorarlberg. We belong to the University of Innsbruck, but we are located in the next state in Vorarlberg. It's about 200 kilometers away from the main campus at Innsbruck. And the reason we are located here is not because people don't like us. It's because historically the textile industry in Austria was located, a majority of the textile industry in Austria was located in this region, in Vorarlberg. And this is a map of the different companies around. Some of them have shut down, but some of them still survive and are trying their best. The institute was founded in 1982 as a subunit of the Faculty of Chemistry and Pharmacy. At the moment, we are 22 members, and 2 professors and an assistant professor. I am the assistant professor, but here they abbreviate the assistant as an S. So they call me an S professor, which in English is not very complimentary. So that's why I don't use the title. And we have 2 locations in Dornbirn. One is again in HTL, like you. It's the HTL for Chemie, Textile Chemie. And then we have a second location nearby that we got some 4 or 5 years ago. Just a broad description of what kind of work we do. We work on composites, and we also work on electrochemical energy storage. So the companies that I showed you, the embroidery, the company that I showed you in the previous slide, a good selection of them are embroidery companies, and they try and increase the technical content of their products. That's one way to survive, or one way to excel. And one thing to do is to use carbon filaments and then to construct electrode materials for energy storage, like lithium-ion batteries, redox flow cells, and that is an area of research. And we also are looking at bio-based materials. We had projects with lensing. When I first came, I came for a 7-year project with Lensing AG on tensile fiber. So that's when I joined here. Then we have other, yes, so recovery reuse. What is the other one that I have here? Yeah, improving textile circularity, recovery, and reuse. Just some brief examples. This is something to do with dyeing. So jeans are dyed predominantly with a blue color. So blue jeans, the standard color of jeans, is dyed with a dye called indigo. And the principle of indigo dyeing is the molecule as such doesn't dissolve in water, and you do a reduction treatment, then the reduced form of the dye is soluble. In that fashion, you load it onto the fabric, and then you oxidize it again. And then it becomes from a insoluble form, take it to a soluble form, then again make it insoluble. And this you can do with chemical reducing agents. But we have a Professor Bechtold here who's worked on this for about 20 something years. You can do the same with electrochemistry. So that means the chemical load in your treatment process becomes lower. This is an area of research that's active in the institute. A second area of research is natural colorants. You extract colorants from food waste, agriculture waste, forestry waste, and then use it as a resource to color materials. You can't. So the idea that you have is that it does not make much economic sense for it to be used worldwide for everything. So then you can have niche products. So one example that I like are these vegetable bags that you see on top. So the bag is made of viscose material, cellulosic material, and it's a bag for onions, and it's dyed from colorants from onion skins. So this is like I found it nice, kind of poetic to do this. And there have been other attempts, and this is also an ongoing topic, natural colorants. We also have started to work on polyamide recycling. You talked about Econil and Aquafil, where they depolymerize the nylon 6. We are looking at another way of doing this. This is basically selective dissolution. So the idea is, like you talked about the fact that if you have polyamide mixed with other components, then the question is, how do you separate the polyamide from the other components to be able to recycle, to be able to focus on the polyamide alone? And what we do is we are looking at selectively dissolving the polyamide out, and then to see how it can be processed back into new textiles. But we are only at the beginning. This is just an example. The pictures that you see are just examples. And I don't know if you can see these little strands that you see in the picture on the right. And that is polyurethane. And that is a major headache for textile recycling topics. While looking at literature, I don't know if you know this, but the US dollar bill used to be made from waste denim. And then when they started to introduce polyurethane in denim, then the people who make US dollar bills found that they could not reuse the denim, and now the US dollar bill is made from wood pulp. They call it virgin wood pulp, so it is not recycled. So the strongest currency in the world was completely made from recycled material, but not anymore. And so this ends my presentation. It's just that the previous speaker, Mr. Bachhauser, spoke about FFG as a funding source for a project. So we've been happy. We've been lucky to have FFG funding, and then we have had support from other funding agencies as well.
Thank you very much. It was really interesting, and so we have some questions.
Oh, I have to stop.
And we will discuss it later. So I have already shortly talked about Tencel. Tencel is produced by Lenzing AG. Here with us is Jutta Schakhuber, who works as Junior Business Development Manager at Lenzing AG, and she will tell us about Innovation Tencel and Refibra. welcome you to our webinar.
Thank you very much, Lena, and congratulations to your very interesting presentation you did before. And also thank you for inviting me. Can you already see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I've been told to talk only like 5 minutes, so I will keep myself very short. So to give you an impression where our company sits, so Lenzing AG has its headquarters in Austria, in Lenzing. This is this small town here, and this is where we got our company's name from. And this here actually is the Lenzing AG. And as you can see, it lays in a very beautiful landscape. It's precisely in Salzkammergut, close to the Lake Attersee and to mountains. So a very touristic region. And as you can imagine, we cannot afford to produce in a dirty manner here. And yeah, we also produce lyocell, so tencel lyocell here in Lenzing, as well as the tencel modal fibers and the viscose fibers. So these all are man-made cellulosic fibers. Also, we produce tencel lyocell micro and tencel fibre in Heiligenkreuz in Burgenland. This is this picture here, what you could see. Then we have another tencel lyocell production plants in Grimsby in the UK, as well as in Mobile in Alabama in the US. And number 5 and 6, these pictures you can see are our viscose production sites in Nanjing in China and in Purwakarta in Indonesia. Yeah, and until the 1990s, we didn't have such a good production. It was quite dirty. There's a river going through our production site, and this was dirty, it was with foam, it was stinky, you couldn't swim in it. And so the government of Austria forced us to produce cleaner. And nowadays we could say that we are the cleanest man-made cellulosic fiber producer in the world. Yes, and how does it work? So we get the wood out of PFC or FSC certified forests from Austria, or maximum 500 kilometers from Austria. Then we chop this wood we get into little wood chips. Can you see me, by the way? No. Okay, I think, okay, it doesn't work.
No,
anyway, I think it doesn't work if I'm presenting. Yeah, okay, we chip the little wood, we chip the wood into little wood chips. Then we cook those wood chips. The result is the pulp. You solve the pulp and you get a honey-like mass, and you spin this mass and the result is the fiber. So, and then we have 3 different application areas, whereby the textile application is our major area with about 70%. Then the remaining 30% is mainly for nonwoven, such as beauty face masks, baby wipes, and cleaning wipes. And then there are also new business areas, such as the filter for cars. So you could use tencel lyocell for the filter of cars. You could use tencel lyocell for all part of shoes, means the inner part and the outer part, as well as the sole, as there is a lyocell powder. And you can use tencel modal for food nets, such as for lemons, for onions, potatoes, which is great because all our standard fibers are compostable and biodegradable in industrial compost, in home compost, in soil, and also in marine water. And this also had been certified by TÜV Austria. And as Lena already explained a little bit, the production of our tencel lyocell fibers is a very sustainable production. So those fibers are derived from sustainable wood sources, harvested from sustainably managed forests, following our stringent guidelines from our wood and pulp sourcing policy. And also those fibers have gained high reputation for the environmentally responsible closed loop production process. So this is a solvent spinning process which recycles the process water and reuses the solvent at a recovery rate of more than 99%. So, and it also had been awarded with the European Award for the Environment. So, and this was just a little bit of an introduction on the production on the lyocell fibers in general, in order that you know what I'm talking about when I explain to you the fibra fiber. As you are aware, the textile waste is a massive challenge for our planet, and about 73% of the clothing ends up in landfills, which means that about 50 million tons of apparel and footwear are discarded globally. So back 2017, we invented the Tencel lyocell fibers with the Refibra technology. What does this mean exactly? We learned before that for the production of fibers, we need the pulp of wood, because wood contains 40% of cellulose, and this is how you produce pulp. However, for the Refibra fiber, we don't only use the pulp from wood, but also pulp from cotton scraps. So we use, it is the first commercially available fiber with recycled content. At the moment, we replace 30% of the pulp of wood with the pulp of the textile cotton scraps. And then, we combine the pulp, and the rest of the production is the same as for the standard Tencel lyocell fibers, which means we give waste a new life every day. And this is a nice picture for you to imagine. At the moment, we replace 30% of the recycled raw material, whereby 25% are post-industrial waste. This means these are the cotton, the fabric scraps which would have been thrown away from the cut-offs, and 5% are post-consumer waste. This means that these are garments which were already worn by people, and for this we are working together with collecting companies such as TaxAid or iCollect. And they're looking if these garments still could be worn or not. And if they still are being able to be worn, then they resell it, and fabrics or garments which cannot be worn anymore, they remove the polyester, because at the moment we still cannot process the polyester swing threads, and then they sell the cotton scraps to us. And our 5 years vision is to raise the industry bar by producing the fibers with the Refibra technology, by having up to 50% recycled post-consumer cotton textile waste in our fiber. And the raw material base are colored knits and woven fabrics. And those fibers are RCS certified, so recycled, recycled. Okay, for the production, 30% less virgin raw material is used, but still those fibers are 100% bio-based. 95% less water is used for the production compared to the production of conventional cotton. And those fibers are also biodegradable and compostable. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manyan. Exactly. Yeah, and one of our sustainability targets is to also have recycled content in our viscose and modal fibers. So our aim is not to offer our only lyocell fibers with recycled material, but also viscose and modal fibers by 2025. Yes, I was very quick. This was from my side. If you have any questions, you're warmly welcome.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's very interesting and impressive, the innovations which come up. So now we are at the part where our audience can ask questions, we can ask questions. Is somebody here who wants to start and ask the first one? Mr. Manian, you said before that you have a question.
Yeah, so I have some of them, but let's see how far we get. How did you decide on this topic? So you are doing, you are at the HTL with the specialization in economy, I think you said.
Our school is not a HTL, it's like an HLW, but the U for HLUW stands for environment, for Umwelt.
No, you can speak in German, I understand it, but I just don't speak it very well. So how did you decide on this topic? You are close to graduation, I imagine.
We have this problem when we go for shopping. We don't know what is greenwashing and what is don't, and we want to find alone what are the sustainable materials and what is different between circular and linear economy. And so we wanted to know more about textile industry and what can we do to help our planet.
And I'm very interested in economics, but also on the technical side.
Is it only you that is interested? Your friends, colleagues who you speak to, do you know if they have the same level of interest, awareness? Do you talk up with your friends about this topic?
Yeah, we talked about, but I think it's really hard for us. It was hard to talk with them about these topics because I think it's kind of a mixed interest. Some are really interested, and a big part is just accepting, I think. Accepting the stance like how it is. And
I think that they can't imagine the problem of textile industry and the problem of pollution from textile industry. And that's why we want to do this webinar to show them so that we have a big problem and we should do something to reach people and to
to inform them.
Yeah.
Because also in media, I think it's a lot about pollution through cars and flights, but textile industry is not mentioned so often. So if somebody other wants to ask a question, if not, I would have one for you, because I know as a researcher it's probably hard to say, but is anything near in the pipeline of innovations, like what you're working on that is maybe coming up in the next years, which innovations?
From our side, from our research, you mean?
Yes.
Ooh, that is, at least I personally find it very difficult to predict. So the indigo dyeing topic that I spoke of, where this is the denim dyeing topic. So that's been going on for 20 years. So this is Professor Bechtold, who was a former head of the institute. And from what I know of its history, I don't have any role in it, but what I know of its history is that there has been like peaks of interest by the industry, and then it dies down. Then again, there is a peak, and then it again dies down. So in terms of what transfers, what exactly is needed to transfer something from the lab, like research institute, into industry, so far as I know, there is no formula that we do not really, at least I don't know. So it is just that you keep doing it, and then you try to keep an eye on what would be important for large-scale manufacture, for example. But then whether it will actually be taken up is something that seems to be some kind of alchemy. I have no idea. But I know historically the kind of stuff. Lensing uses this NMMO solvent, for example. I think the first time it was ever mentioned in relation to cellulose was in the 1940s. But any interest in it industrially, I think, started in the 90s. That's what the literature says. So why did it not get an immediate? Why was there no immediate interest? Why did the world wait something like 50 years before thinking of this NMMO solvent as a means of producing fibers?
Thanks for your answer.
Yes, Mr. Backhausen.
Yes, so generally speaking, generally speaking, the ministry is working on a new textile strategy paper, as I said, and it will come out next year. So this is an important step so that there is enough motivation for the companies to do something in that direction. Innovation-wise, I think there are many companies working on new innovations. For example, also the technical university, they are at the moment working on a project to divert cotton and polyester, because most of the fashion products are mixtures of cotton and polyester, and they know now, and they have a technology how to separate these two and get separated cotton and separated polyester. So, but there is no industrial use for this technology at the moment. It will be in the future for sure, but not right now. So I think there will be many innovations in the future, must be, because the textile waste problem is huge, but it also must be solved in the states and countries where most of these textiles are produced, say China and others, Bangladesh and so on. Therefore, I think it is extremely important that the major trade chains really tell their suppliers in the Asian countries to follow different the laws which we have in Europe. So they should not use environmentally dangerous chemicals and other things. And I think it's also a problem that the fashion in general is too cheap. Because if people can buy a shirt for 50 cents, yeah, or a dress or whatever for nearly nothing, if you go to H&M, you can buy, or others, you can buy fashion extremely cheap, and sometimes the people even do not use it because it's so cheap, or they throw it away after half a year or a year. And that makes the problem. So if we would make the fashion more expensive and also with a higher quality, that would help the environment as well. So there are many components how to solve these problems, but it has to be done. And I welcome the activities of Ursula von der Leyen very much. Unfortunately, she is very busy with all these pandemic problems and questions. But as soon as we are out of this pandemic, I think she definitely will focus more on circular economy, because it is the system of the future. So there will be no economy in the future without circular economy.
I have also a question for you, Mr. Backhausen. So you said that transparency can help us, but for example, when we started our research, we thought, oh, there are so much information about textile industry and about like Zara and H&M, and then when we started to research it, we thought like, oh, they don't inform us about how many wastes they produce, how many waters they need for producing of textile. And I think so there are a lot of so for example machines or other startups, and they have really good reports about their production. But do you think when everyone starts to show their transparency and their product's way of product impact, people will think about it more, or people will buy less? Because I think, for example, Zara has a lot of greenwashing, and they said like we did like an organic collection or something like that, but they don't show us like, oh, because of us died 300 people or something like that. So if you want to know what happened, and if you want to read reports, so you can inform you and you know what happened, but the other people who are not interested in this topic, they wouldn't know about it, also with reports.
I think that the international politicians have a huge responsibility, and this problem only can be used by new laws, because if the politicians worldwide make laws and say, okay, it is obligatory to have a full transparency along the whole supply chain, then these companies have to show how they produce and how they buy and what kind of ingredients they have and so on. But as of now, there are only recommendations and this and that. So no, the laws are not strict enough. And also the controls are not strict enough. So as soon as this is solved, which only can be done by the international politicians, then it will be very difficult. And but I think one way could be these kind of certifications, which I mentioned before. Because when a company is certified, or a product line or products are certified, then they have to show everything, these companies, what they do along the supply chain, and then they get a certificate. But the problem is there are so many certificates, and some of them they call themselves certificate, but they are no certificate, because the companies simply print a green tree in their brochure, and then they say, yes, this is certified after our own certification, which is very strange. So I think there should be just a few authorized institutes where they say, okay, if you're authorized by this and that institute, then it's fine. So we have a real jungle of things at the moment, and this, as I said, can only be solved by clear instructions and laws coming from the international politicians.
I also want to mention that this is a good point, because I was looking at certificates for several days and I was just becoming crazy. It's too much, and it's written like sometimes like law books. It's not easy to really get out of it. What does it mean? And I think for the most of the population, it's important that it is easy to find out if it's really sustainable or not, because nobody wants to read all those certificates, and many are not so interested. So it needs to be very easy for the customers to see if it's really sustainable or not.
Mr. Manian?
Yeah, so you asked about people don't know. So on BBC, I think this was a program about 10 years ago. What they did is they showed the same T-shirt that you showed, that this is how much it costs to produce this. And then they take 10 participating volunteers to Bangladesh, to India, to places, and they make them work in the same places where their clothes are produced. And they are made to work under the same conditions. And then this is a 1-hour program. They start to show, you have to sew, they have to do this, they have to do that, they have to work in a place where there is no air, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of 30 minutes, 45 minutes, the documentary, they show these people are crying, and then they are saying, we didn't know this was so horrible, and we wish we had known, blah, blah. But then they also do a follow-up. 6 months, 1 year later, they ask the same people, are you still buying fast fashion? And they say yes. So they forgot the experience that they had first-hand experience in how these things were manufactured, these individuals, but they still would then still continue to buy fast fashion. And I've heard, I haven't seen this, but I've heard that there was a similar exercise on some German television channel where they took young people out to these places and had them experience life in these garment factories. And then just a note about sustainability. The problem with sustainability certification seems to be in what is called weightage. So if you talk about sustainability fraction, then one question, for example, could be, is land pollution more problematic than water pollution? Or is air pollution more problematic than water pollution or land pollution? So then they try to give these different weights, and then not everybody agrees on the same weighting system, which is more. So they have 10, 12 different measurements, and then they say, ultimately, we want to, from these 10 different, 12 different measurements, we want one number. And this one number should tell you less, more sustainable. But the problem is, how do you go from 12 to 1? Yeah. What percentage do you give to each fact, to each parameter? And then I asked this expert one time, why not just give them 12? And you say, okay, this product has 0 water pollution, but air pollution is bad. This product has 0 air pollution, but they don't they don't pay their workers well. So you just give them individual grades. But then the problem seems to be that consumers are not reading them. They find the list too long, and they find it difficult to judge, to give to come up with their own judgment. In the sense, is it better for me to buy something that is air polluting but not water, or is it better for me to buy something that is water polluting but not air, and such stuff? So that seems to be one of the reasons that you have these multiple labels, because some of these labels differ in the weighting factors that they give. And that is also the problem why the sustainability certifications are problematic, that they are trying to boil down a complex system into single numbers or single rating grades, and that is a challenge that exists.
Yeah, it's.
So now we have talked a lot, and I want to ask the audience if they have some questions. Maybe they want to ask us or our experts.
I would like to congratulate you that you're working on this project, and this is really fantastic, and hopefully many of your colleagues will join you what you're doing, because without you we cannot change much. I mean, we are all not, I mean, me, for example, one day I will not work anymore, and you are the future, and you have to push everything. And as soon as we are in charge in business, it is our responsibility to try to change things, because there have been made many, many mistakes during the last 40 and 50 years. And now we have to bring it to the better, because it is your future and the future of your kids. So fight for it, and try to push it, and ask questions, as many as you can, and don't believe everything, just ask behind the scene. It is really, really important that you work on this project, because this is the future.
Thank you very much
for those words.
So it's really inspirational, because last 4 weeks when we organized this webinar, it was really hard for us to reach the people and to say, like, it's important, you have to know about it. And they said, like, oh, we have our plans, we have like our, I don't know what. And it was really important for us that we can talk with such smart people and who are already working on this topic and who knows so much. And so we are really happy.
I also want to thank every of our experts again for coming and for making this webinar very great. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much as well. I want to congratulate you too. All the best. Really very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think if nobody else.
Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.